NASCAR seems to enjoy being in the negative spotlight, and it only took them one race to draw anger from the fans. While the Daytona 500 was one of the most anticipated races that has ever happened in NASCAR's history, the fact that an incident involving Kyle Larson hasn't been covered or given an update while everyone was sitting there, worried about the health of the former champion, is not going to slide below the fans' radar. They have taken it out on Twitter, but this is barely the only accident that has marked the most legendary race in NASCAR. Let's start with the one that we just hinted at, and that's the Kyle Larson injury update. While the accident was happening, there was a commercial break on live TV, something that is by far the least popular thing that the NASCAR fans want to watch in the middle of the Daytona 500. Nonetheless, the sport has to live off something, and who would have known that such an accident would have happened right when the broadcasters decided to showcase the commercial partners of NASCAR. The eventful race turned out to be a nightmare for Kyle Larson, among some other drivers, as proceedings turned chaotic when Tyler Reddick pushed Kevin Harvick on turn 4. This resulted in multiple cars bumping into each other, but the thickest end was drawn by Kyle Larson, who was bumped by Travis Pastrana, with the latter being hit by Aric Almirola just a split second before bumping into the Hendrick Motorsports driver. Larson hit the wall pretty hard, and if there is one thing we've learned about NASCAR in 2022, it's that every time a car hits the wall, we should be overly cautious about the possible consequences. Remember what happened when Alec Bowman and Kurt Busch experienced similar accidents in 2022? Both of them were sidelined with concussions, with Kurt Busch eventually retiring from the full-time driver role and only being a part-time driver in 2023. That is why the fans were more than eager to find out what happened with Kyle Larson. But guess what happened? NASCAR didn't provide an update right away, and the fans were left out there in the dark regarding the health of one of their favorite drivers. What is more concerning is the fact that the Larson family had no idea what is currently going on with their family member. The situation could have evolved into something much worse, and the fact that NASCAR didn't help the fans by simply providing a health update on the former Cup Series champion is frustrating, to say the least. Fans went to the extent of calling the move by NASCAR idiotic and unacceptable. One Twitter user wrote, not mentioning anything about drivers and their conditions after a big crash that also involved a nasty hit into the wall for one driver is just unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. Had NASCAR not gone in the direction it did in 2022, with the safety issues and the accidents involving Bowman and Busch, maybe the fans wouldn't have had the reaction they did. Still, the reaction from the fans was justified, and while everyone is very mad that they hadn't been provided with the health update on Larson, there is one bright spot at the end of the tunnel, and that's the safety of the 2023 car. The fact that Larson is perfectly well after such an accident just goes to show that NASCAR is definitely moving in the right direction. But when one issue gets solved, it seems like NASCAR fails to keep other ones from happening. The absurd fact that the fans had to wait for an update from social media just goes to show that there is a vast amount of work that needs to be done by NASCAR in this aspect, and whether that will be done in the upcoming races, time will tell. Kyle Larson has also spoken after the accident, updating his fans and thanking them for their concerns, as he went on to say, "I'm okay. It was definitely a huge hit. It was definitely one of the bigger ones I've ever had. But thankfully, car held up, I guess, and all my safety equipment was fine, and I'm fine." As of now, Larson's hunt to win one Daytona 500 race in his career is still on. And although there is a lot for him to regret after not finishing the race, he could be happy that he gets to race in perfect health in the upcoming races, as it's still early in the season to make any assumptions regarding the expectations of the drivers. However, while we were hoping that NASCAR will do more to work towards solving these issues, the Daytona 500 has revealed other problems about which the fans are very angry that they appeared in the first place, such as the race finish. Like we mentioned earlier in this video, the 2023 version of the Daytona 500 was one of the most anticipated races of the season, with it ending under a yellow flag after 2-lap overtimes. When the enormous accident happened, the race had to end under the yellow flag. This is definitely something that NASCAR fans hate to see, and while situations like this are present in other sports, such as Formula One, the fans of NASCAR feel like there's no place for situations like this in the sport. While every NASCAR fan understands the overtime rule, they simply don't understand why it's there in the first place. Is this actually normal and good for the sport? Well, if we see all the options that we have in terms of safety, preservation of equipment, and gas, It's better than what's out there on the table, but it's definitely not the best way to give fans a winner. Some of the fans who began the hating process of races ending under the yellow flag were those that have watched the sport since the days of Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt. Back then, races had to end the way they did, and it was the very nature of the sport. Sometimes fans couldn't help but wonder, is the sport actually trying to do too much to prevent the drivers from accidents and injuries? So much that they are actually killing the spirit of the sport? Paradoxically enough, the fans weren't given a health update of a driver that has crashed legitimately in an accident. So it does make you think about what is the primary goal of NASCAR. Kyle Busch put it perfectly. Back in 1998, that would be the win, boys. He's implying that there would be no need for yellow flags or races ending under them in the past. It's evident that Busch hoped the 2023 version of the Daytona 500 would be the same as it was for Earnhardt 25 years ago, but unfortunately for him, he had to be satisfied with what he was given at the end of the day. After the race, Busch commented, "I think this was the first time I led lap 200 here, so I wish it was 1998 rules. It's just par for the course. I come down here every year just to find out when and where I'm going to crash, and what lap I come out of the care center. Who won? I don't know who even lucked into it." When he was told that Ricky Stenhouse won the race, Busch gave a blatant response. There you have it, hinting out that the winner was one that definitely didn't deserve to win the race, but everyone had to satisfy themselves with the results, now that the winner was definitely one that the public wasn't really anticipating to win the race. Austin Dillon, Busch's teammate at Richard Childress Racing, was also very frustrated with how the race ended for his teammate. Both of them made a great late attempt to make a move past Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher, and had the race stayed green, they would have finished in the top two after everything that happened in the race. But destiny had other plans for these teammates, and when talking about the outcome of the Daytona 500, Dillon said, "I hate it because I really wanted to get Kyle Busch into victory lane in the Daytona 500. Looking back, probably should have been a little more selfish to that point, honestly, but it was one of those deals where it's a hard point to be in. I wish it would have been to the white flag for the position we were in." The current rules are definitely ones that will undergo revisions and potential changes, because when they interfere with the results of such a legendary race like the Daytona 500, repercussions are set to follow. At the end of the day, the fans are the ones that need to be satisfied, and the drivers are definitely not huge fans of how the race ends when a wreck happens on the track. Sure, the safety of the drivers is the top priority, but mitigating the adrenaline and the outcome of the race, and therefore interfering with the final result under the current rules, just doesn't cut it for every side involved. With that being said, NASCAR has managed to make everyone mad after the first official race of the 2023 season. What do you think that the sport will do in order to redeem itself and keep its popularity at the highest possible level? And what do you think of the Daytona 500? Let us know in the comments below, and do subscribe to the channel, as we'll be keeping you posted on all the latest NASCAR news daily throughout the 2023 season.